It still doesn't feel real, but JoJo Part 9, the JOJOLands, will begin its serialization in less than a week. And although this is going to be my fourth pre-Part 9 discussion video, it's also going to be my last, I promise. As from here on out, we are finally going to begin the next chapter of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is just beyond exciting. But just before then, because we have gotten a preview of the new JoJo, setting, and the plot, I just want to get my final predictions out in a video before the part officially begins, as well as let everyone know what we know so far going into the JoJoLands. So first and foremost, take a good look because this is our new JoJo. We had first seen this character at the beginning of the year in Araki's annual New Year's illustration, showcasing the year of the rabbit, with the new character drawn inside the rabbit, literally pointing at the word JoJo, giving us a pretty good idea of who this character was going to be. And just a few weeks ago, we received an official preview within Ultra Jump of the JoJoLands, which showcased a complete illustration of this new character and the part setting. So because I've only ever known JoJo as being 8 parts long, discovering the series around 2015, I just never thought I'd see the day where we see the introduction of a new JoJo. But now that it's finally happening, I gotta say it's by far the coolest moment in my entire time following the series. So let's talk about this guy. He definitely looks like a JoJo, and the design has become familiar quicker than I would have expected, as he looks like he's going to fit right in with the lineup of the Legacy Joestars. As for the information we can translate from his design, I do really like the longer hair and the bangs covering his left eye, as well as the braid on his right side with the little star accessory or hair clip. He looks more youthful than the previous JoJos in the alternate universe, as Johnny and Josuke definitely felt like the most adult JoJos in the series, besides probably Jonathan, literally being adults, Johnny 19 years old and Josuke estimated to be about 19 as well. Although half of him being Kira was 29, so physically Josuke was probably the oldest main JoJo we've had before. But coming back to Mr. John JoJoLands here, I could see this character being closer to 17 or 18, as Araki refers to him as a boy, so probably on the younger side, and he looks younger. As for his name, I'm kidding, it's not John JoJoLands, but I'm still fully on board the prediction that this is the alternate Giorno or Jolene. The initial evidence for this theory was that in the alternate universe, the main JoJos have so far always been recreations of ones from the original universe. And since we're 2 for 2 with Jonathan and Josuke, I expect Araki goes 3 for 3 in part 9, with this character's name being either straight up Giorno or a nickname of Giorno, like Jonathan to Johnny. And since we have yet to see the appropriate counterparts for Giorno or Jolene yet, I would assume this character will fulfill that role, either being one of them or representing both of them in one character, similar to how Josuke is a recreation of part 4 Josuke and Jotaro. So while I initially proposed this theory about 4 years ago and have mentioned it in pretty much all of my part 9 discussions, now that we actually see the new JoJo, the concept seems to be further vindicated, as one of his predominant design features is braided hair, which was also seen from Giorno and Jolene. So because this character is a boy, I'm gonna lean more on the side that he could be an alternate Giorno, as if Araki were to recreate Jolene, I feel like he would want to keep her a woman. So with a name like Giorno, you'd expect some Italian heritage, which could be possible. As we've discussed, there is enough descendants of Johnny Joestar to make any new JoJo really any heritage or nationality. Although something special about Giorno specifically is his connection to Dio, being the son of both Dio and Jonathan, often described as having the mind of Dio but the heart of Jonathan. So if Araki were to recreate Giorno, I feel like that defining part of him would need to be represented somehow in the alternate universe, even if it's just a small reference. Although as far as we know, the Brando bloodline ended with Diego way back in the late 1800s, but there could always be more Brandos out there, just not descendants of Diego himself. So say if one of Johnny's descendants married or hooked up with a Brando at some point in the timeline, that would be the perfect place for this new JoJo to fall under if they're going to be an alternate Giorno. As a new Giorno that doesn't have any Dio in him just wouldn't feel like Giorno. Like how Josuke was fated to be a Higashikata in part 8, being adopted into the family to make everything just feel right. And this idea also applies if this character is to represent Jolene, as I feel like it would only make sense for an alternate Jolene to be the daughter or son of the alternate Jotaro, being Josuke from part 8, so that's also a possibility. This new JoJo being the son or even later descendant of Josuke. Although for whatever reason, I just don't get the vibe that this part is going to take place after JoJolion. I could be wrong of course, but from the Radio Gaga incident at the end of part 8, I feel like Araki wants to write more about the time in between Joseph and Josuke, being like the 80s or 90s or something. But if we knew for sure that the part was taking place after JoJolion, I would guess that this character would be the son of Josuke, as that would put the time period that the part takes place in around like present day, like 2023. And it could also provide some background as to why this character is a sailor, as we know that Josuke in his previous lives, Joseph-Fume and Kira, enjoyed sailing together. So really just trying to cover all the possibilities here, but moving on to the setting, Araki confirms that the part will take place in the subtropical islands, which completely axes my previous theory of the Scottish Scottish Highlands and also the islands of Papua New Guinea, which is where the Rokakaka fruit originates from and where a lot of people thought the JoJoLands would take place. So now, within the subtropics and seeing the first chapter's preview containing volcanic lava and palm trees and surfboards, there's really only a few locations this could be. The most likely is Okinawa, which is the tropical island located south of mainland Japan, but we could also be in Hawaii somehow, which is close enough to the subtropics, being the region located above and below the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. So Hawaii would be cool, diversifying the JoJos a bit more, although this is most likely Okinawa or some region near Japan, as Araki usually likes to visit places that he draws in his work, like his trips to Italy and the American Southwest in preparation for parts 5 and 7. So because of travel restrictions in the past few years and Araki's age, it would make sense for him to only be able to visit places in Japan or close to Japan. But referring back to the preview sketch from the first chapter, while we can see the tropical setting, we can also see that it's located near the airport with policemen drawn, which is also where part 5's first chapter took place, with Giorno stealing from tourists. So if this was to be an alternate Giorno, that would be a pretty cool way to start the story. And as for the larger plot of the JoJoLands, Araki says within this preview that this is the story of a boy in the subtropical islands who goes on to become extremely rich, which definitely sounds a lot different from part 7 and 8, although I think this description tells us a little bit more about the character than the actual story. As if he goes on to become extremely rich, he is most likely an active protagonist following his ambition, and just from that vague description, I could really see this JoJo being more mischievous and self-motivated, setting sail looking to various islands in pursuit of his wealth or just something more in life, which at the surface seems like he would be going after the Rokakaka fruit with its whole tropical setting and everything, which is said to be worth millions of dollars. Although I don't see the Rokakaka being a major plot point again, as it was so specific to JoJoLands' theme and plot, it just wouldn't fit anywhere else. So maybe the fruit will be mentioned or a rumor of it or something like that, like the Holy Corpse in JoJoLand, but I doubt the whole story or really any of it will be about fruit or rock humans, and I'd rather have those things exist in JoJoLand so the JoJoLands can be something entirely new with its own themes and new concepts that connect to that larger theme. But in terms of a JoJo who goes on to become extremely rich, I like the idea of a JoJo that is almost criminal in his actions, who is seeking this wealth, possibly born on a small island with big ambitions, which begins his journey setting out to sea, with some sort of companion that appears to be a woman with similar hair to Hermes from Stone Ocean. And in general throughout the JoJoLands, it seems we're bound to see more reimagined characters from parts 5 and 6, as so far in Steel Ball Run and JoJoLand, Araki has mostly reached to parts 1 through 4 for inspiration and reimagined characters, sort of going in order as he explores this alternate universe. So it's just really exciting that within this part, we could see the recreation of certain members from Passion from part 5 and prisoners from part 6, like Hermes and Mabakio and Bruno and just some of these beloved characters. But of course remember, nothing we've discussed in this video is guaranteed, and it's just my predictions and speculation for part 9. But because this is JoJo, the possibilities are endless for where Araki will take this story and its characters, and I cannot wait to begin this journey with you guys of experiencing a new part of JoJo from chapter 1. So be sure to subscribe to the channel to follow my JoJoLands reviews from the beginning as we learn more about this new JoJo and his world. Thank you all so much for watching the video, like if you're hyped for the JoJoLands, and I'll see you guys in just a week for chapter 1.